Today we're going to be looking at Lost Zone Giratina. It's really that deck that divides opinion among the community. Some people think it's just inferior to most other Lost Zone box builds you could be playing. Some people respect this as like a well-rounded deck that can play into most decks in the game, which is kind of where I land on it. But some people also think, or have thought, that it was possibly the best deck in the game pre the EUIC. It was, contending very well in Japan. It's continuing to do well in Japan. And a lot of people thought this was going to be one of the sort of S-tier decks of the game. Hasn't quite panned out that way, but that's not to say there hasn't been any results. Giratina has still done relatively well at some recent tournaments and in online events. So today we're going to be looking at a pretty straightforward shell of Giratina here. As we know, it is going to be a Lost Zone engine, so we are playing the high switch count, as well as Ropes, Beach Court, and Colress, and the quad Comfey. You could potentially think about subbing out some of these switches for switch carts. That's going to give you a bit of help in the Lost Zone box matchup, where you can do some healing of your Comfeys and Manaphy's and whatnot, because that could be big. The reason why I'm still playing this high switch count is, of course, it allows you to move your V-Star if need be as well. But that's really up to you what you want to play. I've seen successful lists play either switch or switch cart. Just a minor thing I wanted to take note of there. But we have the classic early game options of Cramorant. Once you get to 4 cards in the Lost Zone, once Mirage Gate is unlocked, Greninja is a viable attacker with Water Energy splashed into the list. And then we have the sort of higher threshold attackers of Sableye and Giratina. So we can sort of cosplay as a single prize deck quite well. We have Klara for the Sableyes, the Cram, and the Greninja if need be. So that does allow us to be quite one prizey in a lot of situations. But we also have the sort of wall breaker of the deck in the Giratina V-Star, and its selling points are basically just very high damage output. 280 is a really great number to be hitting with this Lost Impact, and in using this attack, you are also fueling your Lost Zone even further by putting 2 energy from your Pokemon directly into the Lost Zone. That's going to help us get to 10 with Sableye, that's going to help us get to 10 with its own V-Star power, which is an attack. Which allows us to simply knock out the opponent's active Pokemon, no matter what the hit point. So this is great for breaking through VMAX Pokemon, Stage 2 EXs, even just things like Goodra that are going to have that massive reduction of damage. You don't care about it, you get straight through it and just get an easy knockout. So great at up trading or just going in on other V-Stars, and having this pretty chunky 280 hit points with no weakness on its own end means it's just a card that can sometimes stick around on the board and really get immense value. We should also note the regular V is also pretty decent. The Abyss Seeking attack is actually one that you will find yourself using in the deck. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put 2 of them into your hand and the other 2 into the Lost Zone. So this can be used alongside Comfey, especially if you've gone second, of course, just to continue to see more cards and to continue to fuel that Lost Zone. 7 is a big number that you need to keep into your heads, because that's when you unlock Mirage Gate, which is actually massive in this deck. We see it, be very good in the turbo lists, but it's also integral to this build as well. So doing some early selects and ending on a Abyss Seeking can be really good into a number of matchups, especially if you feel like your opponent can't get a knockout on your Giratina V. It's pretty much just free card advantage if you don't want to take that prize from Cram and prefer, ramping up your Lost Zone higher. The Abyss Seeking can be a better option. And even in Lost Zone box matchups, I feel like the Abyss Seeking can sometimes trump going for a Spit Innocently play. Even though you're not taking that prize card, getting to 10 is still kind of like the highest priority thing you can do. And you can also use this Giratina as almost like a punching bag in the opening stages, where it can take that Cram hit yourself, then you can evolve into a V-Star, and you pretty much nullify that damage. So that's also a little thing you can keep in mind. I do really like Abyss Seeking into a number of matchups. It's a pretty big part of the deck. Outside of that, we're basically just playing a decent number of ball search cards to get us into the game. We're playing the gates and the double recycler just to make sure that we're cashing in on these as much as possible and not being limited in our options. You could think about just having the 1 recycler, but it's always one of those when will I find it style situations. And then if ever you see it come up against flower selecting, you pretty much always have to take it, which can make things a little bit more awkward for you. For tech cards, I am playing double Temple of Sinnoh right now. I think it makes a lot of sense to be quite high on Temple of Sinnoh because of the Lugia matchup, and Archetype is also playing V-Guard energies. Yes, you can get around one of them with a Star Requiem, but they play multiple V-Stars that can all have V-Guard energies on them. And also, it just gives you a defense against Lugia with Roxanne Sinnoh as a late-game panic play, which sometimes means they just don't have access to like Urns plus Stadium Bounce plus the whatever else they need to finish off the game. So I think that's really big, and I think Roxanne's actually a big reason why the Giratina deck is still performing quite well and can still make comebacks in a lot of situations, because even just going Roxanne and send up a single prize, it can skew that prize race where you can just have a Giratina waiting in the wings, try and dodge your boss's orders, then you can come in and like finish off Pokemon here and there. I do think it's a solid option. We have the Drapion to help out the Mew matchup. If you're not too bothered about Mew and you want to sort of save a space, you can turn Drapion into a Cleansing Gloves or a Choice Belt, and then you can cut a Temple into playing Path, because I know Path is sometimes another stadium option in the deck as well. Just makes your Roxanne Path combination like something that you could come up with in the deck. Outside of that, there's a few other things you could be adding into your list. Snorlax could be another one prize Pokemon that you could weave in. You know, post Cramorant, it can sometimes be very good, especially with Mirage Gate. I've also seen some Pokegears sneak into the list here and there just to give yourself a more reliable Colress. These are the kind of things you see often added into these Giratina lists, but I've tried to have a pretty vanilla baseline. I was initially quite cold on this deck, but whenever I play it, it feels like fine. I think this is just like a fine deck to be playing, and like I said, it does give you game into most matchups, so yeah, let me know your thoughts on Giratina, and enjoy the games. Cheers. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So it looks like our opponent is going first in this first game. We have a pretty nice start with Comfey and Colress, so we should be able to fuel that lost zone. And it looks like we're up against Mew. To kick things off, we are playing the Drapion, of course, so that's going to be a key component. And we can actually try and make this a 2-attack game if we just go for a Drapion play and either have our Klara to recover it as well as the stadium, or if we can get 10 in the lost zone as quickly as possible, we can Star Requiem through a VMAX as well. So this is mostly just about thinning through the deck and cycling as much as possible, and you don't really have to worry about giving up a decent number of prizes in the opening to sort of get that board state going, really, where you probably only want to put down multi-prizes like together, if that makes sense. You want to put them down at the same time, so you're forcing the opponent through one of your two threats, so then you always have another backup, whether it's you're hitting with a Tina and the Drapion's in the back, or the Drapion's up front whilst you're like gating to a Tina, is often like the pattern you try and go for in this matchup. We get the really nice Chorus VIP, so we have a ton of Comfeys now, and you can really see that this is the priority in the matchup. Get zooming to 10 as quickly as possible so we can make the most out of Star Requiem. I am throwing down the Greninja even though there's a path in play, and I'm throwing down the Sableye because we know that this is a judge-heavy deck, right? And we know that that's one of the things they're going to throw at us throughout the game as they do evolve up into their VMAX and just judge straight away here. And our hand's pretty good actually to deal with this as the opponent just goes for a Technoblast, because we at least have a switch out and a pay retreat here. And I'm just prioritizing these over everything else, because it is simply about fueling that lost zone as much as possible. The opponent can try and make it more difficult for us with Psychic Leap plays and such, but this is what we have to do in the openings, certainly. We're already at 7 in the lost zone. And I think, yeah, retreating into Sableye just to give up, or like protect a Comfey makes sense here. Some argument to playing Gates just to thin the deck a little bit further, honestly, and again, continue to play around Judge. But they are still important components for us with our Giratinas. Choice Belt can be a card you can also choose to play in the deck, or Cleansing Gloves if you want to have access to Guardy EX as well outside of the Lost Impact. Or Star Requiem, I should say. By playing the Rope first, it means I'm not looking for a Drapion play this turn, and our hand wasn't really close enough to make it happen, but now we finally hit Colress, which is nice. We can keep one Recycler around. This is definitely an Energy Light matchup, where, like I said, we can limit this just to a couple of attacks, essentially, so we don't have to worry too much. We're holding on to Roxanne as well, which is looking really interesting for next turn, especially if the Path sticks. That could be massive for us. Where I'm continuing again just to give the opponent one prize at a time. They'll be going down to 3 next turn, so I think next turn is where I spring the trap, really, right? Especially if Path sticks. There's a Cram Tails. I can only imagine they'd be going for a Judge there. But we do still see the Cleansers, and they will Psychic Leap now as well. And with Path in play, this is pretty dangerous for them, actually. I definitely think the priority, and especially with this Drapion top deck, is now to go for Gate Roxanne and just let their own path do the trick for us. Gonna get their quick recycler in before using this Gate, just making sure that we have the goods, and yeah, we didn't need that Psychic back. We can turn attach to Psychic. I am benching the Drapion just to try and give myself a secondary attacker if need be. I don't think I would go in. Like you see, I've even found Beach Court, and Drapion for 2 prizes just isn't worth it. It's just not a thing we want. Unfortunately, we have Colress versus Klara there, which is a bit of a shame, because Klara can be a great way to recover Drap. But I'm actually going to come in and hit with a Cram here. Because it's not a 3-prizer, I feel like I may as well just get a little bit of pressure in and just see how the Roxanne has treated them. Sometimes they just find their Forest Seal Stone or a Vacuum in this spot, and then they're off to the races again. But it looks like our opponent just has the VMAX into hit, which isn't like the best outcome, but also definitely not the worst outcome. They could have had a much bigger pop-off than that against us. So riding our luck a little bit here from the Roxanne, as we are finally able to find our V-Star. And our opponent only has 2 prizes left, so it is a little bit about dodging boss at this stage. So I'm definitely going to keep the path around, and we're just going to retreat and Requiem because our Lost Zone is silly at this stage. I think we've got like 15 or so cards in there at this point, so definitely able to fulfill that. And again, with such a low hand size in that path that has stuck, they've now got their prize card plus top deck to see if they can get out of their own path here that they've established. The good thing is, because we've done so little in the game, they still have 38 cards in their deck. They've not been able to thin at all, and it's paying off here as they've just had to retreat from their VMAX, and we go straight into the Giratina. So it was a 3-attack game in the end, where that Cram hit actually was relevant, which is cool to see. Maybe questionable benching the Drapion on the turn that I did, but it seemed like a decent choice at the time. Let's get into our next game here, and looks like our opponent is choosing who will begin. And we have a mulligan to start things off. This time we're starting Tina. Not the worst lead, actually. That is one cool thing about the Tina deck compared to other Lost Zone decks. Abyss Seeking is just a fine attack, to be honest with you. it's like just a very decent option to start fueling that Lost Zone and drawing more cards. Our opponent is playing Miraidon. Regieleki, by the looks of things, so I'm not really expecting Raichu here. I'm just expecting the VMAX damage mod. And VMAX is good for us, right? Because sometimes it can be a 3-prizer that we can take out with Requiem. The opponent's going to Generator, and surprisingly they put things onto the Raikou here and actually whiff off their second Generator, which kind of hurts them. So I feel like Miraidon's the most reliable attacker into us, because there's no reason for me to fill my board turn 1 here. And we've prized 3 Comfey, which is horrific. If this was Lost Box, you'd be at Scoop territory, so it's really fortunate that we have Abyss Seeking here. That's actually massive. That's crazy. Prizing 3 Comfey in a Lost Box deck is never good. But at least, I'm definitely going to be Abyss Seeking this time, right? There's no way I don't when I have no other access to fueling my Lost Zone and my hand is kind of clunk, so we are going to go for this. I do have to give up on a Stadium Bounce, which is a shame, because it's free card advantage for the opponent the whole time with the double Fleet Foots. But I think we just have to take the Roxanne Colress there, no real question about that. As the opponent immediately turn attaches to Raikou, so they may not have many other lines here. I feel like they should have Fleet-Footed first at least, just in case they top deck into Generator or something, or Forest Seal Stone. Because the Miraidon EX has to be the thing that takes the knockout here, because this Raikou is not getting it done with the Rondo. We see another Fleet-Footed card. And they actually do have a Generator, but miss again, so that's really poor, actually. I mean, it's very fortunate that they found 3 this early on in the deck, but the outcomes have been poor from them. So thanks to Abyss Seeking and Colress, we're actually just a Colress away from Gate, so we can start racing now, which is the good thing. No dice from the Colress, unfortunately. We haven't had access to our Mirage Gate, so we are going to have to play a rope here and try one more time from flower selecting. The good news is they only put multi-prizes down for us. And we actually do get fortunate enough to hit gates off this one. So we can go for the fresh Giratina and force some damage mods from the opponents once again. So this is pretty nice. Definitely debate whether or not I want to evolve this next Giratina. It is damaged. So maybe just sort of keeping this option around if I want to make another Tina later on in the game is reasonable. I'm not expecting much hand disruption from them, maybe like a couple Judge. So I'm keeping that option open. I'm not sure how much I like it, to be honest. I think I probably should V-Star there. But I am taking a couple prizes and initiating this race, which is kind of the most important thing. And I am forcing the opponent to get double V max now as well. Which isn't always that easy, especially because the opponent hasn't really played a supporter for the last couple of turns. So we see Fleet-Footed Retreat, Fleet-Footed, and finally the Forest Hill Stone. So they do eventually get into something more useful here. And it's going to be a big research. They're looking for Ultra Balls and VMAXs. We actually see a Choice Belt. Okay. So this is probably an Arven-based build, right, with a few different things going on. We've already seen 3 different tools. And they do hit the Ultra Balls. So they are going to be able to get a knockout on our V-Star here with the Lightning Rondo. So we're just in good old-fashioned race mode at this point. We have 10 already in our Lost Zone. And the Klara is actually a really interesting pickup. Because I Lost Zone Psychic Energy, I don't think... Oh, okay, so nice. I Flower Select into Psychic Energy. So now I actually can Klara and just get back my Tina pieces and just turn attach and V-Star power through this Raikou, knowing that I only need to find Gate for my next Lost Impact to close out the game. So it's looking like we're in pretty good shape. It's not ideal that we're getting to a spot where hand disruption could be quite detrimental to us. But again, it's not really a deck that's ever going to be playing Roxanne. Probably a Judge would be the most scary thing. We start finally seeing our Comfeys out of the prize cards. We would typically have seen more of our deck at this point and thin more garbage. But oh well. Definitely debate whether or not I should have played the Sinnoh there as well, just to thin it from hand. Because if they don't hand disrupt us, I have the Beach Court already, so I don't see why I wouldn't have played the Temple there either. A couple of things I could be doing better to protect myself a little bit more from hand disruption. But as it stands, there is no disruption coming our way, so we are just looking for Mirage Gate to close out the game here. Picking up Colress is fine. And off the first flower selecting, we get there, so we can just recycle back the 2 that we need and make our next V-Star. So this was definitely a multi-prize matchup, and Tina's pretty good at sweeping multi-prize matchups. We took the first 2-prize knockout, and with our crazy energy acceleration, we never missed, essentially, from that point. So yeah, pretty powerful into multi-prizes, that's for sure, for Giratina. The opponent's just getting some EXP share value. And there's our last couple gates in the prize as well. So 3 Comfey double gate prize that we still won. You love to see that. That's the OmniPoke diff right there. Right, let's get our next game in. We have a Greninja lead with VIP Pass. And we're up against Lugia this time. Okay. I definitely want more basics. Yeah, I like going for concealed cards first here just to see if I hit any basics, because I want a number of outs, right, as quickly as possible. We can switch now into Comfey, get a selecting in. Nice, we actually hit another VIP pass. Lugia's definitely another matchup where it feels like Cram is much less effective, so we probably need the Tina to be doing some carrying for us. I do like that we're playing double Sinnoh in the list. It definitely makes life more easy for us in this matchup to get around V-Guard energies. We are going to have to say goodbye to a gate, but we're already holding on to one, so it's not the worst outcome here. Overall, couple selects, couple Tina already developed. That's looking pretty good. The opponent gets the early research in, gets a Lugia developed and a T-Tar. But we, once again, could be trying to take the first 2-prize knockout here. If we can gate plus rope, that could be massive for us. So we need to get to 7 and be able to rope here. We only have 2 in the zone right now. So we need... Okay, so this Mezagoza gets us 3rd Comfey. So now it's looking for switch outs. And we do hit a rope. We've also hit 2 ropes. And that would force the Yveltal back into the active position, which wouldn't be ideal. Colress versus Boss is a tough one there, to be honest with you. So ideally, we're looking for one additional switch out here. We have the Nest versus Sinnoh. I could try and go for a Greninja draw now as well, potentially hitting a Switch plus Energy, but that would be like the exact 2 cards I need. So I am just going to play the Rope here instead. And we actually would have hit Switch Energy. That's insane. That's actually insane. Wow. Okay, the consume cards would have been the absolute nuts there. And we could have taken a 2-prize knockout. That's pretty crazy. I think now I'm going to take a more defensive line. Just load up the V-Star and just Sinnoh up here. And hope that I can rope again next turn. Or if they, you know, get out of this, there'll be probably a 2-prizer in my face anyway. We see a Burnett, though, for now. I think they already had an Archeops in there at least. So yeah, just Burnett pass. It seems like the research has done them dirty, which is pretty insane for us. So now it's looking for our last rope, or working towards our boss. And yeah, we do hit boss from the Colress. So I'm probably going to have another turn of sitting behind a single prize Mon and just saying, if you're going to get out of this dead hand, it needs to be like a Stadium Bounce plus V-Star that they need to have, and Gust, and that's just not happening with their low hand size, right? So this Temple is actually really helping us a lot, I think, here. I mean, we're going down to 7 cards left in deck, so we've cycled through pretty much everything at this point, and that's pretty insane for us. We have 11 cards already in our Lost Zone. Could get the attachment in on Tina. So we've pretty much cycled down to just the good stuff, and the opponent just has to draw pass again. So I'm not sure what the combination is that's that bad for them. I'm certain they're missing V-Star. But now we can get this Lugia dealt with and leave 2 energy on both our Tinas. That seems like pretty routine. They are going to get gift energy activation here, though, so they can at least re-establish their hand. Oh, no, they can't because of the Temple, right. But they do. They are able to research now. And they are going to get a Mesagoza heads for Lugia. And we are out of boss now. We've got 1 in the Lost Zone, 1 played. So we probably have to find our next rope. And we do have 5 cards left in the deck. So, I mean, I can get access to rope. Yeah, rope is in the deck. So we can take the Comfey, play the Colress, and then Energy Recycler to not deck out. And I'll be taking another 2 prize card turn here. Just get the 3 energies back. We're still playing around T-Tar by having 3 cards in deck. But we can just Requiem here, right? Because I'm holding on to Temple, so if they make a Lugia next turn, we can already get around V-Guard. And if they make a T-Tar, which is the only thing that can knock out our Giratina V-Star, we won't need Temple anyway. The one thing I probably could have done was played Ultra Ball, get rid of VIP and like Manaphy or something, just sort of get them out of the hand and play around hand disruption a bit better. Same thing that I wasn't really doing well enough with the Miraidon matchup, was not fully hand thinning. The opponent finally gets their V-Star going, so they've had a really bad time of things here, to be honest with you. But they can finally Primal Turbo up, and we are going to see the V-Guard onto the active. But as we know, we have the second Temple. We are teching for Lugia. I think it's a matchup worth teching for. It's also really good into Arctina because they also play V-Guard energy. So it's just justifying that slots right now, as we used it defensively in the opening to sort of stave off early pressure, make them have a better hand with more answers in it. And when it didn't come together, we could pounce on that. Let's get one final game in then. DCEs and water energy. Oh, it's Arc Goo. This did well in one of the recent tournaments, right? And this should be pretty favorable for us, right? Tina's good at blowing up walls, and their damage output is kind of low. So we should have a pretty good time of things here. Definitely one of the boasts of Giratina, right? That you just love coming into multi-prize matchups. Actually, all the games we had today was into multi-prize decks, so you see the benefits of the Tina really highlighted here. And to be fair, we're in a fairly multi-prize heavy format, besides Lost Box being like the best deck. We're going to see some concealed cards action. We get the Tina down, get the energy attachments to get an extra selecting done. I'm going to take the next V-Star to hand. Because they're a Judge Path deck, definitely some reason to play the Ultra Ball here. I think I like getting the Ultra Ball. Yeah, let's just get another Tina out, right? It's just definitely our best attacker. If we happen to not get judged, I'm holding on to double V-Star, double Gates. So, like, the hand is absolutely bonkers if it's not disrupted. And just playing the Ultra Ball out proactively thins the hand a little bit. We have 4 currently in the Lost Zone. 4's a really good number, because you can go selecting plus Colress to get to 7. And unlock those gates quite happily. The opponent is able to get Arceus online and go for a Starbirth here. They have Switch, have Energy, have Path, and Judge, so they have the lot. Everything you want, but we get judged into an insane hand. What the heck? Yep, we have Colress Gates, so now we just need to dig for V-Star and Energy attachments for turn to be in business. Sometimes the judge is kind, huh? Well, there's V-Star and Energy attachments and another Switch to boot, so pretty easy choices. We can even throw away a VIP pass. Man, insane. We're going to load up our Tina. Definitely debate if I want to get this next selecting in as well. I'm at 7 right now. I'll go to 8, 9. So if I was to have got into my Comfey there and spent the Switch, I could guarantee that I'm at 10. Maybe I probably should have got that extra selecting in, you know. I'm playing the gates. Playing the gate's interesting as well. I could definitely have played the gate onto my active this turn, just in case, again, I get hand disrupted. I suppose I'm only a grass energy away, but I have just lost zone 2 grass. Maybe I should have proactively played double gate there, knowing that I can't get knocked out by anything. I'm no expert in Tina, so I'm sort of critiquing my play as I go. As it stands, we see a Gudra V-Star. We see the Arc in the back powered up. And we are at 9, so I probably have to play Switch now, but I can go Switch Gate and pay retreat the Comfey with the Gate energy as well, so this still works out pretty well. Yeah, I suppose if I don't switch last turn, it's right to hold the Gate, so I could do this. Yeah, I guess that's kind of true. But I think I should have just switched in the first place and made sure that my impact actually was the thing getting me to 10, because that's just, like, hand-proof at that point. Anyway, we're at 10. I can Requiem, and we're storming through this game, to be honest with you. The opponent can probably finish off this Tina, you would imagine. But there's another one that they have to get through. And even though they're quite behind, they did take a Comfey knockout and now a Tina knockout, so I can actually Roxanne them here as well. Gonna get back a lot of these energy with our Recycler top deck. Happy enough to throw down a Comfey here and just rocks. You actually do get into a gate, which is quite fortunate. I can't win this turn because I don't have the pivot option. But again, this Tina is sitting pretty, right? It's not going to be dealt with anytime soon. So I can just put some pressure on with a Cram hit here, knowing that we're pretty well set for next turn. And we Roxanne them down to a terrible hand. They are going to judge us straight back. We actually get into nothing, but it looks like they also didn't find the V-Star. So yeah, that wraps up some Tina gameplay. I don't think I played the cleanest there, but I think I did get to show off the strengths of Giratina in quite a multi-prize heavy format. Let me know your thoughts on the deck list, and let me know your thoughts on the gameplay. I do think Tina is still just one of these decks that can go into pretty much every matchup and feel okay about itself. Doesn't feel great into other Lost Boxes, let's be honest, but I think you have win conditions there. So let me hear your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.